They hired us on a 3-month strip-out, asbestos removal, pipe salvage, gutting the hospital to bare walls so a developer could turn it into luxury flats. I didn't take the job for the history, just the pay. The place was a dead brick labyrinth at the edge of town, wards sealed like tombs, windows bricked up like missing teeth. On the first safety walk, my foreman, Kev, banged a rusted fire door and said, "East wing's welded shut, closed in '68, fire code violation." I pointed out the plans showed the east wing connecting to 2 live corridors. He shrugged and scribbled tags while the security guard checked permits. Later, pulling down cabinets, I smelled something that didn't belong to dust, paper rot and glue. Inside a wall cavity were patient files bound with twine, edges curled with damp. On the first page of every one, a red stamp bled through like a wound. Transferred, no record. Kev peered over my shoulder and said, "Box it. Pretend we didn't see it." I asked why. He said, "Because the client doesn't pay us to chase ghosts on paper." We broke the welds on the east wing door a week later under orders from Lorraine, the site manager. "Don't open anything sealed without me," she warned. "If it's asbestos, it'll choke you." The steel plate came off with a shriek and the door swung into silence. The corridor swallowed sound. Doors lined one wall, each with an observation hatch. The opposite wall had a faint seam, like a second layer of brick painted over to hide something. I shone my torch. Beneath the flaking paint were faint pencil marks, maybe names, maybe numbers, that had been scrubbed out and painted clean. I said, "This can't be fire code." Lorraine answered, "We're here to make it safe, not to ask questions." Then she added, quieter, "If you find something, bring it to me." That night I took one of the files to the porter's lodge, where the security guard, Pavel, warmed his hands on a heater. I opened it, showed him the stamp, the name at the top, Eleanor L, Ward E3, and asked if he'd heard stories. He stared at the file, then shook his head. "I don't know anything." He paused. "But an old nurse comes here with the Ramblers. She told me once the wing wasn't closed for fire. She said, 'It's easier to erase a name on paper than a body in a bed.' We stripped plaster from that seam and found a false wall, brick over brick. Behind it, a heavy door with no handle on the inside. Someone had painted over it, plastered it smooth. Lorraine chewed the end of her pen and said, "We'll cut tomorrow." Kev ran his hand along the frame and muttered, "That's a soundproof door. You don't use that for fire safety." When we cut it open, the hinges gave way with a cough. The door swung into a cell the size of a cupboard, padded with cork and horsehair, the old kind of soundproof that muffled screams more than it protected ears. No window, a dead light fitting. The walls were scored with scratched calendars, hundreds of them, tallies and rings marking days. In one corner lay a blanket turned to damp lint. In the other, a biscuit tin filled with curled notes. I pulled them out like wet leaves. They were written in neat school script. "They don't call it silence here, they call it treatment." Another, "If you find this, it means the paper lasted longer than I did. Don't let them erase me." Most signed the same way, EL, day 41 in the quiet room. Across the hall was another cell. Inside, a narrow bed with leather straps still buckled. On the ceiling, words scratched into lime wash. "I will be transferred when I stop existing." My throat tightened. I whispered, "Transferred to where?" But the room gave nothing back. On Sunday, I found the old nurse among Ramblers by the fence, sharp-eyed, silver-haired. I told her I worked on the strip-out and found Ward E3. She studied the note signed EL for a long time before speaking. "We were told to clear beds. That's all they said. We didn't ask where they went." "What happened to Eleanor?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time. "You think I'd still be here if I asked questions like that?" We told ourselves she got better. It was easier. She touched my arm. "Don't keep that note. It won't let you sleep." Lorraine later introduced me to Ms. Hargreaves, an archivist from the county. She wore cotton gloves, spoke like punctuation. She frowned at the red stamp. "This isn't standard." "Then what is it?" I asked. She shut the file sharply. "If it's not on record, it didn't happen. Someone wanted it gone, and I'm not putting it back." That evening, Pavel poured tea. He nodded at the note I carried. "Keep it if you want, but don't think it'll do you good. Some things stick when they shouldn't." One night on late shift, I set up lights in the quiet room. My torch found a cavity behind the skirting. Inside was a cassette wrapped in oilcloth, label scrawled in the same looping script. EL, tape 3. I rigged a player. The tape hissed, then a woman's voice, calm, steady. I asked for another doctor. They told me no. I asked for something to write with. They told me to be quiet, so I counted scratches on the wall instead. One day, men in gray coats said I was being transferred. I asked how. The door doesn't open from the inside. No one answered. I copied the audio onto my phone, then gave the original to Lorraine. Her face flickered, relief, then calculation. "This is big," she said. "It goes to the authorities." Kev pulled me aside. "You think that matters? This'll end with a plaque on the wall. Heritage feature. Then they'll sell the flats." A meeting was called. The developer's rep shook my hand too long, skin clammy, his hair perfect, his smile rehearsed. "I hear you've been curious," he said. "Curiosity's dangerous in some jobs. Be careful." His eyes dropped to the Eleanor file. He tapped it. Strange how her name keeps showing up. I remember it. He wasn't old enough to. Later, at the lodge, Pavel was gone. A temp sat in his place. In the sign-in ledger, I noticed a taped sheet, transfer list, East Wing, archive. Names I knew. At the bottom, mine, Shaw, Daniel, site access, temporary. Next to it, status, transferred, no record, date, today. I showed Lorraine. She went pale. The contractor says it isn't theirs. The developer says it isn't theirs. Then who wrote it? She shut the book hard. Someone wants you gone. That night I dreamed of the quiet room ceiling. Woke sweating, checked my payslip, my ID badge, even junk mail envelopes. My name looked wrong, like it could vanish between blinks. Kev found me pale and shaking. I told him about the list. He flicked his cigarette. "That's the warning. You're next. Keep going and you'll pay for it. Either way, you pay." I went back with my phone set to record video, documenting everything, calendars, straps, scratched words. "My name is Daniel Shaw," I said into the lens. "If this cuts out suddenly, it means someone switched something off." The lights died on cue. No flicker, just gone. Black air. The building spoke in pipes and seams, my breath the loudest thing alive. My torch lit a small circle. I moved past the quiet room and my boot struck a tin under the bed. Inside, more notes, folded soft from years of handling. I read them aloud. Day 82. The nurse with the polite voice brings milk. I pretend not to see her so she doesn't get in trouble. Another. Day 134. I heard a bell today. Thought it was a ship. I've never been on one. Maybe I imagined it. The last. Day 200. They took my calendars down. Said I was too hopeful. Then the final slip. If you carry this out, don't forget me. I am not a story. The power surged back. Voices echoed in the corridor, radios buzzing. A guard opened the door. "You shouldn't be in here alone," he said flatly. "Not safe." Lorraine arrived with 2 men. The rep with perfect hair smiled faintly. Security fault. Nothing to worry about. On Monday, the East Wing was welded shut again, scarred with fresh bead. Redeployed, we were told. Heritage assessment pending. The developer issued a press release about honoring the site's complex past. A plaque would follow. The flats would sell. People would hang pictures on walls where doors used to be. Her last note sits folded on my desk. Sometimes when I play her tape, I hear the breath at the edge of her voice. If you carry me out of here, remember I am not a story. So I'm telling you now, check your own name. Right now. On the nearest paper, on your phone, on your mail. Make sure it hasn't already been crossed out or stamped with words you don't remember, because transfer doesn't wait for permission. It waits for silence.